Disclaimer. This is a work of satirical fiction. Any resemblance to real places or situations is purely coincidental and exaggerated for comedic effect. The story intentionally contains factual inaccuracies and absurdities as part of its artistic expression.
Hey, welcome back to the show. And joining us today is Jeff Berwick, the founder of Vigilante, Vigilante Crypto, Anarchapulco, and author of The Controlled Demolition of the American Empire. He's also the star of the HBO show, The Anarchist. Jeff, how you been? Thanks so much for carving out the time.
I'm doing great, Christian. How are you?
Just dandy. A lot of crazy stuff going on around the world. Perhaps you can give us a high level overview as it relates to your thoughts as it relates to what's going on, what you're seeing out there. Obviously, the events in Mexico have been making the news, and I've been hearing from you and others about that it's a false flag event that's gone on. So I'd love to hand the mic off to you and hear your candid thoughts.
Well, that's a big topic. What's going on with the world, right? I should just mention I'm doing like stem cells right now. I have an IV in my arm here. So if you see a nurse come in, I'm packing everything in. I was supposed to do them in Puerto Vallarta on Sunday, and that was the day of the false flag terror attack. So we didn't do them there. So I brought them back to the ranch, and I had a nurse do it here. And yeah, that is kind of like a metaphor for what's going on, right? We're in the apocalypse now. It's lifting of the veil. We're starting to, many people are starting to awaken to what's really happening in this world. And it's, Cole's Notes short form. It's ruled by satanic pedovores, not even pedophiles, people who eat children. So that's been quite eye-opening for a lot of people, I'm sure. I've kind of known about that for a while. We've talked about this for a long time. I was talking about Jeffrey Epstein before most people even knew about it, along with people like James Corbett and people like that. A lot of the people who speak at Anarchapulco have been talking about this for a long time. I even got on Epstein's Island right after they said he was suicided himself in jail, which of course, highly unlikely that happened. There's no evidence of it. There's actually lots of evidence that he was taken out of the jail the night before. So I went actually and got on his island to see what was going on. And so we went on there for about an hour until we got chased off by security. So yeah, we're in there's so many things all happening at once here. It's the financial system as an example, the monetary system. It's all at the end stages. This is why I started the Dollar Vigilante newsletter, which the tagline is surviving, and it's in there for a reason, because that's going to be important, and prospering, which I always like, abundance, during, that's right now, and after the dollar collapse is our tagline. And that's actually what you're seeing. That's what a lot of people haven't recognized it yet. They're like, wow, gold and silver have been skyrocketing. It's like, well, not really. The dollar has been collapsing is really what is actually going on. And all these monetary systems, the financial systems, they're all basically at their end stage now. And of course, the people like Klaus Schwab, and people like that have been talking about the Great Reset and and they brought in the Covaids and all that. And that was all part of it to basically, and then there's the AI part of it as well, which is very true in my opinion, that most jobs, not all, but most, like probably more than half of all jobs in, I would say like the modern world, the industrial world, the world that has stuff, the electricity and, appliances and all that kind of stuff. More than half of those jobs will likely be gone in the next few years. So they've been talking about, well, we'll get everyone on UBI, we'll get them with chips in their head, and we'll put them, make them play video games on drugs. That's basically their idea, and smart cities. That's actually their idea. It was actually already written about in 2 separate books, like 100 years ago. There was Brave New World, where it was a dystopian future where everyone's a slave, and they just keep everyone docile with drugs and pleasures and stuff like that. So Uber Eats, Netflix, Pornhub, all that kind of stuff. Then the sort of the opposite of that was his friend George Orwell wrote the book 1984, and that's the more dystopian police state, Terminator type future. AI sort of a future where the government is watching everything you do, tracking everything. It's incredibly tyrannical. I think it was, or no, I'm actually confusing that with V for Vendetta, because we're living through so many dystopian movies right now all at once, including Hunger Games, which Donald Trump just launched the Patriot Games recently. 2 people from each sector will battle it out for like food stamps or something. I don't know what they win, but yeah, and the V for Vendetta, that whole thing was sort of like a version of 1984 with this sort of tyrannical, all-watching state. And that actually started, if anyone goes back to that, the whole movie started, that all came into place after a massive plandemic, after a massive virus sort of a situation. So they're actually playing out all these books all at once right now, and we're in the middle of them, including myself just recently in Puerto Vallarta. I was right in the middle of one of their planned, staged, false flag psychological operations. Not to say that it wasn't real, like there was real things happening and there was real people dying, not many, but there was. But that was actually all part of bringing in a sort of totalitarian one world sort of a AI police state. So they want to get people scared. Oh, these cartels are going to kill everyone. So we have to bring in the U.S. military, have to bring in Palantir, have to have the Mexican government get much bigger and in control of everything. We have to give everyone biometric digital IDs so we can track everyone, so that never happens again. But it's always the Hegelian dialectic, the problem, reaction, solution. That's their playbook all the time. And so the problem this weekend was, the cartels, but it's not really the cartels, it's actually them. They're the ones behind it. They've all been armed by the US government and the Israel government as well. And then the reaction is supposed to be that the people want this big brother sort of police state and biometric IDs and stuff, but that actually didn't work in this particular event in Puerto Vallarta. The people in Mexico are incredibly resilient and strong and very against government. So hasn't been a lot of calls for that. So they actually failed with their attempt here this weekend. But that's all part of what's going on. Of course, there's the entire takeover of a lot of the world by Israel, which is the Greater Israel Project, which Donald Trump is Benjamin Netanyahu just flies to the White House every few weeks. Donald Trump pulls out his chair, and then a new war starts. And this is all part of their New World Order, which Donald Trump said, and Elon Musk, they both tweeted as soon as they said he was the president again, New World Order, and now we're starting to see it. So yeah, all these things are happening all at once.
Oh my gosh. Can you provide more color as it relates to the false flag event in Mexico? I don't know how granular you've been able to get as far as the information goes.
Yeah, so it was Sunday morning. Anarchapulco was from Monday to Friday. I'm actually quite grateful that they did it after the event. If they did it before the event, it would have been a lot more chaos for us personally. There've been like so many flights were canceled. The airport was shut down for a while. So it was around Sunday morning, around 8 or 9 in the morning. All of a sudden, all the police from the entire town were gone. And all of a sudden, there was like a bus burning at the corner of every street in Puerto Vallarta. They threw in and lit on fire a number of shops. There was some guys out with guns. They look kind of like ISIS sort of people because that's the same sort of thing. That's what ISIS is as well. It's a Mossad operation. They went out and started shooting a bit randomly. They definitely caught a few people. One taxi driver that we know of, we have eyewitness, was killed. None of the people that were involved with Anarchapulco were hurt, which I'm very thankful for again. And I think we are somewhat protected. And I've said that before, and I've kind of been proven right again. I hope I continue to be proven right on that. Yeah, it was kind of chaotic for a few hours. There was a bunch of people on motorcycles, a bunch of these sort of Mossad cartel guys dropping spikes everywhere so cars couldn't go anywhere. So people were kind of trapped. Very quickly, the airport was closed. There was actually no way out for a period of time, which is very interesting to kind of go through that and live through it, just to have that sensation that you can't get out. I even thought of, just so you know, being a narco-capitalist, and I've been in Bitcoin since $3. I can afford, if I want to, I can afford to rent a helicopter for an hour, right? Like it's not a big deal. So I thought about that, and then I thought, well, with everything going on, all of a sudden, right in the middle of it all, a helicopter comes in. The government people will probably think it's the cartel people. The cartel people will probably think it's government people. One way or another, they're probably going to attack it. And they actually both work for both sides, but the people in their groups don't even know that. They're controlled at the top by the same people. So we were basically trapped there for a while. We actually had our Crypto Vigilante event. We had it at the convention center, and we never stopped. So if you watch the replays of the event, you'll hear some explosions and some gunfire. And we continued on for the entire day. And pretty much very quickly, within about 6 to 8 hours, it was just over. Completely gone. Everyone left. There was no cops still. No cops came for a couple of days. In fact, they came around Tuesday. And there's some video online of them coming back into town and trying to buy tortillas, and no one will sell them tortillas. They're like, get out of here, you bunch of scumbags. You know, you're not even here for all this sort of stuff. And but within 6 to 8 hours, it was pretty much over. And then it was just a matter of all the disinformation. There was so much disinformation and propaganda all over the place. Some of it probably placed, and some of it just by people reposting AI images of planes at the airport on fire, and all kinds of fake information. So none of us really knew exactly what was going on, but it was pretty clear by Monday morning that nothing at all was going on. And that was actually supposed to be the day I was supposed to leave anyway. So we just packed up and we said, let's get out of here. We don't know what's going on. Let's at least get out of this area so that if anything is still going on, we're not trapped still. And then we just came here to my ranch and been just doing nonstop interviews ever since, which is kind of funny because I thought this week was going to be my quietest week ever. I only had your interviews scheduled. I was like, one interview this week, no problem. I'm going to like relax after Anarchapulco. And normally Sunday would have been the day I start relaxing. And that was the day the attack happened. And then we spent a few days, just dealing with all the things you have to deal with a bunch of attendees who have missed flights now. And it all turned out pretty good. Actually, most people were really happy they got to stay because it's just completely back to normal now. So, and then basically on Monday and Tuesday, a bunch of tow trucks just came around and dragged off all the burnt out buses that were placed there like it was a movie set. And that was it. It was really an incredible thing to witness live.
Oh my gosh. I feel like these false flag events, I mean, this is just a recurring pattern, it seems, Jeff.
Yeah, no, I've been doing videos about false flags, almost one a week, for over a year now. Of course, there was the Charlie Kirk. That was a huge one. Now, you might not call, you could call that a false flag. I should actually explain what a false flag is. So a false flag is an event, usually a violent event. I don't know the exact definition, but this is what I think of it as. That appears and is said to have been done by one group, but it's actually not being done by that group. So again, with the Charlie Kirk one, there is no evidence whatsoever that tranny kid climbed up on a roof in the middle of the day, assembled a rifle, shot Charlie Kirk perfectly in the neck, disassembled the rifle. No one noticed. He got away, went into the woods, threw it away. Just like most of these narratives, these stories for these things, it makes no sense whatsoever. That was most likely, again, Israel involved in one way or another, because Charlie Kirk had begun speaking out against their genocide and all the heinous things that the state of Israel, which is really a terrorist state that was started by the Rothschilds, who are basically satanic pedovores. So yeah, like I've been just doing nonstop sort of false flag or events or hoaxes in some cases. Sometimes they're just complete hoaxes. Nothing actually happened. Sandy could be an example of that. I won't get into that too much, but there's a number of them where it was actually completely staged. You could even do the Challenger. Remember the Challenger, the so-called spaceship where everyone died? They're all still alive. They all had twins, they say. So yeah, like most things when you look into them aren't what they say they are. So yeah, I've been just nonstop covering this for years now.
I know that's invited a lot of censorship, Shirley, and fill in the blank from the powers that be over the years.
Yeah, with the Covaids, that was we were still on YouTube at that point. We had about 400,000 followers. We'd get 1 million views on some of our videos, and then as soon as the Covaids came out, I knew exactly what it was from the get-go because they've done it before. The whole HIV/AIDS, that was completely made up as well. Magic Johnson's still alive and well, and it was actually the medication that killed all the people. And that's actually the same with the Covaids. So the vaccines is what's killing a lot of people now. But there was actually no actual virus or anything. It was completely made up. It was incredible how they did it. But I started talking about that on YouTube in 2020. And as soon as I did, we were banned completely. Everyone I knew who was talking about it, like Max Egan, he was banned. We all were kicked off YouTube at that moment in time. They've actually allowed us back on now, but they massively shadow ban us. This is just in the last few months. And we're actually quite suspicious about why. We don't know, like, what are they trying to do here, right? But heavily shadow banned. Now I get like maybe a few thousand views, whereas before tens of thousands or hundreds of thousands was the norm.
Yeah, you know, I haven't been doing it as long as you, but even in my brief period thus far, I have noticed that I don't get anywhere near the views that I used to get a handful of months ago. And candidly, that's because I've covered certain topics that are invariably sensitive. Yeah, definitely a lot of interesting things to observe. How about observations or thoughts that you'd like to share, whether that's revolving around the regime change over and around, presumably anything in Europe or even the state of society, Jeff?
Yeah, the whole Iran thing is another massive lie, basically. Just like Iraq was with the weapons of mass destruction, just like 9/11, they said it was guys in the cave in Afghanistan. Anyone who's looked into any of these things knows that was not the case. And now you see in Iran, and it's actually very interesting, Patrick Henningsen, who's a journalist, was speaking at Anarchapulco. And he had a last minute chance to go to Iran the week before Anarchapulco, and he went to see if there's these all these protesters being murdered by the government. And it was actually nothing at all like that whatsoever. There was some Mossad operations, he said, and they were lighting buses on fire. So he was covering a bunch of Mossad operations in Iran is what it really was. And then he came to Puerto Vallarta, and then a few days later he sees a bunch of buses lit on fire, basically by Mossad-controlled so-called cartels. So this is pretty worldwide. It's all over the place at this point. And they keep trying to do these things. I don't know what's going to happen exactly with Iran. Who knows? But I would not be surprised at all if they do something quite major there. And just like with all the past ones, it'll just cause massive chaos, massive violence, massive death. Over 500,000 Iraqi children killed over a lie of weapons of mass destruction that George Bush to this day still jokes about, just laughing to people that he can't believe people fell for that one. And there was even Madeleine Albright, who was the Department of State, Secretary of State, I believe at the time, was asked on, I think, 60 Minutes, how do you feel about 500,000 Iraqi children are dead because of this? And she said, we think it's worth it. These are very, very, very evil people at the top, and they continue on with these things.
No doubt, no doubt. How about as it relates to the state of the U.S. and the Trump administration and just Western society in general? Any comments on that?
Well, I'll say that a lot of people were very against what I was saying about Trump about a year ago or even 2 years ago. I was saying that he would not do any of the things he said he was going to do. He said he was going to balance the budget. First of all, he said that the last time he was president, 2016, and he went on to have the biggest government deficit in the history of the U.S. for one regime. Then he said, again, he was going to balance the budget and pay off the debt. Then he... with the big beautiful bill, which is actually 3 lowercase b's, which is 666, because they hide all their satanic stuff in it all. That was the biggest bill ever. He said he was going to bring all the troops home. Now he's given the military the biggest budget it's ever had of $1 trillion a year. He now wants to increase that by 50% to 1.5 trillion. So everything he said was basically a lie. Said it's going to be America first. It's actually been Israel first. Pretty much everything that, so many people got fooled with that. And it's unfortunate because I was telling people the whole way along that that's exactly what was going to happen. But now they're starting to realize that. And now with the Epstein files as well, they remember Kash Patel and Pam Blondie and Dan Bongino, they're going to come in and release the files. Well, they tried to do everything they could for a year to not release anything. They still haven't released a lot. A lot of it's still redacted. You don't see a lot of the names, but some of the files they released actually has some a lot of really evil stuff, like raping children, eating children, all these sort of things. So people are just starting to, this is the apocalypse, the lifting of the veil, and people are just starting to realize all this stuff right now. And it's going to be very interesting to see how this all plays out.
Absolutely. You know, and even as far as your average American goes, you know, I've commented on other episodes of the, people becoming more financially strained, and you know, people selling plasma, people going to various platforms like OnlyFans, people working multiple jobs, the housing situation. I'm here in California, so it's you know, for a lot of people it's serious. All signs of fourth turning stuff, that's for sure.
Yeah, the financial aspect. The U.S. is actually, and most of the world's actually been in a depression for years. They actually changed and they fake a lot of the stats, but it really has been. And if you actually look back at the depression in the 1930s, the people back then were so far better off than people today. They had way less debt. Their rents were way cheaper. The prices of things were way cheaper, the people who were earning money were earning way more than the people today are. So we're actually like way worse than the Great Depression right now, but it's all been kept alive on a bunch of money printing, which is eventually going to go towards hyperinflation, which is why we're seeing gold and silver just go parabolic in the last few months. It's incredible to see, but they kind of papered it over, and they've used the propaganda on TV. Like Trump's always saying, it's the best economy ever and all this sort of stuff. Your average person's getting absolutely destroyed. And a lot of that comes from a lot of the inflation that they did during the Covaids plandemic, which was with Trump. Trump actually increased the money. Well, he didn't. He went into so much debt for basically a fake virus that they almost tripled the money supply in a few years. And people were so excited, you might remember, about their stimmy checks. Back then I was saying, you just wait a few years. You're not going to be excited about it anymore. And that's what we're saying. People can barely afford food. They can't afford hardly anything. Everyone's in debt. There's all kinds of stats, like more than half of Americans are a paycheck away from basically living on the street. But you also have the dichotomy of it. This is basically becoming almost like a Soviet Union sort of situation, where you have a small amount of people at the top, and they're unbelievably wealthy. And that's the Trumps, the Musks, the Butnicks, all those sort of people. Larry Ellison, all these sort of people. And then you have certain people below them, and they're kind of like, very wealthy as well. And then you have this huge drop. There's like no middle class anymore. And now everyone's pretty darn close to poor at this point. It's going to get worse too. And it's already even way worse in Canada. This isn't just a US thing. This is pretty much a Western country, or even a worldwide type of thing. Although some places are doing better than others. In fact, Mexico's been doing incredibly well. A lot of people don't know that. The Mexican pesos outperformed the dollar the last few years. The economy, growth, and the amount of people even just moving here, because they didn't do anything during the Covaids. There was no government regulations or anything, which is excellent in my opinion. There should never be any government involvement in anything. They make everything worse no matter what, because it's a criminal organization. It's based on extortion and violence. So anything that's based off that is going to have negative long-term effects. But because of that, some places are doing okay, Mexico, and that's also why they're probably doing these false flags in Mexico now. They want to try to destroy this region because it's actually been prospering. Because the people that are behind all these things, they want to make it so humanity is poor, sick, suffering, in fear, and dead. And that's what they want. And they're all part of this big club. Every single person, all the top politicians, even all the top actors, all the top musicians, they all do all their symbolism, their one-eyed symbolism, their pyramids for the Masons. They're all part of this big satanic club. And the cool thing is that you don't have to be a part of it. Once you kind of realize all this stuff, you can start moving away from all their systems and stop funding them, stop giving them your money. Like, so many people still do that. They think it's their duty. It's I can't believe it's true, but they're like, it's my duty to pay taxes. Like, no, it's not. That's a giant scam, and it all mostly goes to satanic pedovores. They also continue to use their money too, right? So that's actually Babylonian money magic, basically. These central banks, which was founded by the Rothschilds, it's a giant scams, fiat currencies. It's all based on debt. It's always going to go to zero at some point, and we're getting close to that with most of them now. But as long as you continue to use it, you actually give them energy. That's why it's called a currency. It's like a current of energy. And they know this. The top people know all this stuff. They know how they can use all these things to their advantage. But people keep using their currencies like the US dollar, the euro, or the peso, and that actually gives them a lot of power. Whereas we have actually alternative currencies out there. We've always had gold and silver, but even on top of that, in the digital age, we have cryptocurrencies, and specifically Monero, which is private and no one can see or track. It's like the perfect money, but a lot of people still haven't figured out to start using those things. And once people start figuring these things out, then things will change dramatically. But as long as they keep waiting every 4 years to go into a closet with a shower curtain, stop me if this sounds completely insane. They go into a closet with a shower curtain, and there's a voting machine from Israel in the closet, and you get to pick between a red elephant or a blue donkey, and then you're in charge. Once people figure all that out and start moving away from all these systems, then we can finally have peace and prosperity on earth. And until then, we probably won't, except for those of us who have figured out how to live outside the system.
Could you share what your advice would be to people that want to emulate that, Jeff?
Sure. Like, for example, I'm an entrepreneur, basically. I have numerous business ventures, you can say. I have the Dollar Vigilante financial newsletter, which we recommended Bitcoin at $3, by the way. We've been recommending gold and silver all the way along. Like, we're the best performing financial newsletter in the history of mankind, just on our Bitcoin recommendation at $3. No one's mostly heard of us. We're shadow banned everywhere, that sort of a thing, but we're still doing quite well. Then there's the Crypto Vigilante, so that's our newsletter to cover cryptos, which is also very important. Anarchapulco is not really a business. It makes no money. I've lost money making it over the years, but I don't care. It's my passion. I think it's important to have all the smartest, best truthers and people who are freedom-minded people all in one place for at least 1 week a year. It's kind of like our Davos. It's the exact opposite of Davos. They get together. It's all the richest people in the world. They try to figure out how to get richer and make everyone poorer and kill them and enslave them. We get together and we try to figure out how to live outside of those systems and create our own systems so that we can do the exact opposite, so that we can lift up humanity, so that we can have peace and prosperity and stuff like that. But I do have an Anarchapulco, and that, people get tickets for a number of things. A lot of that comes in crypto. A lot of it comes in Monero. Same with Dollar Vigilante. Same with Crypto Vigilante. I'm also involved. I'm not like part of it, but I've helped a group who's got an incredible new technology. It's a plasma technology that Nikola Tesla discovered 100 years ago. But actually, Donald Trump's uncle and the CIA stole and has kept hidden for the last 100 years. But they've figured it out, and actually they've created something even far better than Nikola Tesla did. And that's actually out there, and people can get it now. It's at a place called Tzla.Club, which is Tzla.Club. It cures basically everything. It de-ages you. I've de-aged by 20 years, provably, with like quantum biofeedback machines. I have the energy of like a 10-year-old, according to the quantum biofeedback machine. And I actually showed that this week with Anarchapulco. I was literally going from 6 in the morning till midnight every day for 7 straight days. And I thought Sunday was going to be my day to relax. And then there was a false flag terror attack, and we had to find our way out through that. And then I've been doing interviews ever since. I have not stopped for a week and a half here, basically. And I'm completely and totally fine. And that's a large part to the Tesla machine. It gives you unbelievable energy. But I bring that up because they mostly only accept crypto and mostly Monero. They prefer Monero. So what I'm saying is all of my companies, and Tesla is not my company, I should say that, but I've been helping them and I know them and they're doing awesome stuff. But they also use cryptos. But with my personal companies, we get in a lot of crypto, and we pay most of our people with Monero. And even if people pay us with dollars, we usually quickly convert it to something like Monero, and then we disperse it however we want to disperse it after that. So that's just one example of how I'm kind of like living outside of their systems. I don't care about their tax stuff. I've never have. I don't do it. We actually had a number of people at at Anarchapulco, Christopher Gronsky of Destination Freedom. This might be a very great interest to you being in the US and anyone from the US. You very legally don't have to pay taxes. And this has basically been proven. He's been doing it for 20 years. You just have to file some documents and say you're not from the District of Criminals, the Washington, D.C. They actually fooled everyone into, it's actually just a big scam. It's a big hoax, they fooled people. And if you actually just send in proper paperwork, you say, I'm not from there, I'm not subject to these taxes, you don't have to do it. Like legally, you don't have to do it. So that's another example of how people can be moving away and stop giving them all their power and start using things like cryptocurrencies, which also gives, when they use their currency, you're giving them a lot of power. You don't necessarily see it, but it really is. It's a massive amount of power if you control a currency that everyone uses. And the great thing about gold, silver, and Monero is no one controls it. So that's what makes it such a beautiful currency as well. So those are just a couple examples. I guess I could say also, I stay away from the medical system. That served me very well. The doctors, all their injections, of course, the vaccines, those are bioweapons. They're trying to actually inject nanotech into everyone on Earth. I know it sounds crazy, but it's true. And so I don't do any of that. And actually, I use my Tzla machine as basically for all of our health needs, even injuries, like for trauma injuries, it heals them up about 2 to 5 times faster. It even stops bleeding and cauterizes the wound and starts healing the wound. So that's another example of how I'm living outside of sort of their systems of, you know, doctors in butcher coats with really bad handwriting that will prescribe you a bunch of dangerous and harmful substances. They're basically drug dealers. I don't deal with them unless I absolutely have to, and I like almost don't. I'm actually on an IV right now. This is actually a good example. I'm on an IV right now, just finishing up with some stem cells. So that's another thing I'm doing that are not, you know, the system doesn't promote it, right? They've actually been saying it's, you know, all these things. They're not allowed, I don't even think, in the US. That should give you a hint of how much they can help your health. So I live outside of all their systems. When it comes to, you know, media, I do media related things. I'm just always trying to put out the truth, whereas the mainstream media is always putting out CIA propaganda and lies. So you could say, like, and I live here in Mexico on a ranch. I have a blue roof for the directed energy weapons. So I'm just getting ready for the apocalypse. I got 15-foot walls. But I also, like in our communities, we help out our communities. So in Acapulco, we had a Cat 5 hurricane out of the blue, wiped out the city. I helped raise $500,000, and we spent months helping people put the city back together and stuff like that. So that's another example of not letting government supposedly take care of anything, like taking responsibility and taking care of yourself with your health and your financial health and all that. Your family, which is a huge part, like it's my favorite thing that's ever existed. I can't believe it's real. It's the most incredible thing ever. Take care of them. And then beyond that, your communities. And I have a couple different communities. I have communities here in Mexico, just people around where we live. And then I have my own sort of community with Anarchapulco. And I just spent the last few days trying to make sure they were all safe. So that's, you know, to give people some ideas of how I'm basically not really living in their systems and living very well.
Oh my gosh, I love it. Wow, you just covered so many different topics. And that has been my observation, Jeff, is in my own journey from trying to understand the financial world to then, okay, what's the power structure, to then, you know, it's funny how, you know, I feel like once you kind of become aware of who the powers that be, it then bleeds into other topics like, as you alluded to, healthcare, you know, education, media, and a myriad of other things. And wow, what are perhaps
we
some
also
other things?
unschool our kids. So you brought up education, right? I would never, ever, like, you put a gun to my head and we're going to have to like fight to the death, ever put my kids in a government indoctrination camp. It turns like, and I know, like, I went there and many of us have gone there and, you know, all that kind of stuff. I'm not saying you're bad or anything. And even if you're doing it with your kids right now, I'm not saying you're bad. I'm saying you should really realize they're being put in there to be turned into automatons for the state. And turn into slaves and turning off their ability to think. For For example, all my kids, none of them have ever gone to school. My kids are the smartest kids you'll ever meet in your life. My daughter is mind-blowingly incredible. She's a veterinarian. She's 19, by the way. She's a veterinarian. She helped manage our hurricane relief operations on like a ground level with like walkie-talkies and organizing like dozens of people. She does so many things. And yeah, she's basically unschooled. And I have a 3-year-old now, and he'll never really see the inside of a school classroom unless he goes every day to say hi to the kids at the kindergarten. So he's 3 now, and he's kind of mentioned to me he wouldn't mind going. And I'm like, that's okay. It's kindergarten, right? It's mostly a bunch of kids just playing around with toys. But, you know, if he starts going, I want to go to grade 1, I'm going to have a talk with him and go, are you sure about this? Because it's not the way to go, right? But, you know, being a voluntarist, if he goes, I really want to go to the government school, there'd be nothing I could do to stop him, because, you know, that's how my beliefs is everyone has their own choice, their own all voluntary exchanges. But I'm saying, like, if it's my choice, he'll never, ever see the inside of a school. He'll never see a college. And that's actually a good example too. My daughter never went to school. She's actually in, and I don't want to say too much for her own privacy, she's in one of the top most sort of like what you could call elite schools in Mexico right now, related to, well, I guess I could say it, like acting. So it's like the top acting school in Mexico. Only 50 people get into it per year. Most of them get kicked out even in the first few weeks. She never went to school, but she wanted to go do that. She wanted to be in the school. And she went and she did social engineering. She actually went and met a bunch of people, made friends with them. You know, it's very savvy, street smart, right? And she got into this most exclusive school. She's never acted before or anything. So that's an example of my unschooled kid who's doing incredible things. And that's another example of staying outside of their systems.
Wow. Okay. So you boy. Okay. So you mentioned a number of things. I guess. Well, here I'll ask one of the questions that I have for you is pertaining to you know, a lifestyle without any government, and I guess to those who are perhaps libertarian in the audience, or who believe in a small government, what might your remarks or comments be in support of having no government whatsoever, having the voluntarism that you're alluding to? Can you kind of, I guess, provide your rendering?
Sure. I would say, like, I'm not trying to force anyone to not have a government. I don't force anyone to do anything. The only thing I'm doing is kind of trying to show people that if you really look at all the information, all the data, the world would be much better without it. And I'm not saying we can just turn off a switch and everything be perfect. It won't. like so many people are so indoctrinated into this sort of a system at this point that if you just took it all away, so many people are so inured to it. A lot of their income comes from it, from pensions and all these things. All these things are going to go bankrupt anyway, and they will. So my general view is just that I believe in do unto others as you want them to do unto you, and not using force to make people do things that you want them to do. The only time, in my opinion, that I would ever use force is just to defend myself. So it'd be self-defense. So that's basically what I believe. As far as, you know, the world and how it's all going to work out, I don't know. But we're really seeing the statism, when you have big government, just how much it destroys everything. All the wars, as just one example. The central banks wouldn't exist without the governments. That they only exist because of the government. It's actually like two wings of the same bird in that sense. They can't exist without each other. And central banks are a tenet of communism. Most people probably know, not all, but a lot, that communism doesn't really work out well. It's basically a system of violence where you make it so people can't actually own their own property. It's crazy, but a lot of people think that's the best thing for people. We've seen enough, I think, now. Haven't we seen enough? That doesn't work out, okay? Just good idea, nice idea. Oh, beautiful idea. Doesn't work, okay? So not in the way the world is today, at least, right? So The way the world would work best is if people would wake up and realize their own power, and take back their own power, and not look out to anyone outside of themselves, for the most part, to take care of them. And that's how a lot of people look at government. We're not in that kind of a world today for the most part, so I just work my way around it. That's basically what I do. And whatever happens, happens. This is all basically, like, I've actually spent the last 10 years pretty deep into meditation, and I've gotten to the point where you could say my consciousness level has risen to a level where I can see what this all is, and I see it for what it is. And it's really just an experience we're having inside the mind of God, in my opinion. And it's almost like being in our own true man show, like Jim Carrey used to be in. But we all have our own individual one. And that's how I kind of see it all. And I actually kind of say that what this life is, like what we're doing here right now, is basically like a 3D video game that we put ourselves into, and it's got ups and downs. It goes round and round. It's very brightly colored, as Bill Hicks would say, and it's incredible final act. And so that's how I look at the world. So I don't worry about anything. I'm just like, whatever happens, happens, going with the flow, trying to stay connected as much, basically with source, trying to always do the right thing. If you do the wrong thing, if you make a mistake, try to make amends for it as best as you can, that sort of a thing. But aside from that, I don't worry about anything. In my opinion, this isn't really real. It's not. It's not base level reality, but it's so awesome. Like, to actually be in it is really amazing. And, like the graphics, like, look at it, like, not on the screen, look out the window, look at that tree, look at the graphics. It's like, why are people even playing 3D video games? You're in the best 3D video game ever. And you can actually become kind of like Neo in the Matrix, or like superhuman in the video game if you do the right work. And that's like physical, mental, emotional, spiritual type work, which is all the kind of stuff I've been doing. And once you do, you can actually start to manifest and do all kinds of stuff.
Yeah, one of the things that's been most profound to me is, and I'm thinking of Manly P. Hall and some of these other people, is that all is mental. And I know that's kind of cliche, but it is amazing how much your perception of yourself, and what is put into the system just creates literally your own reality. And I mean that very profoundly, in that it is amazing how many people are just kind of coasting in life, or they're genuinely lost, or they're on drugs, quite literally, pharmaceuticals, and a myriad of other things that inhibit their, self-actualization, I guess is the term. It's very alarming.
Yeah, basically, I think we're like in I've been working with someone named Christoph Melchizedek, and he thinks he's got it all figured out, that essentially this other consciousness field came into Earth like hundreds of thousands or millions of years ago, and it actually feeds off of our suffering. And it's sort of like in the Matrix in that respect. And so he's actually been working to get rid of this consciousness field on other dimensions. I know it sounds crazy. A lot of people are like, this guy's crazy. It's fine. But I've actually seen, and this is actually happening. And so that's actually the great news. So this is starting to be removed, and now people will be able to connect more with source. We used to be, in my opinion, probably incredibly magical beings. Like, I think that movie Avatar, how the people were, they could talk to the trees, and they're telepathic, and they're just, in this, like, I think that's more of what we used to be, but it all got taken away from us over time, slower and slower, and dumbed us down, got us on the fluoride, put us in the schools, got us into our cubicles, got us watching the television programming, which is literally mind control. Now they're staring into the screen mirror all day long, every day, getting the algorithms. But before that, I think we were quite magical beings. I think we can get back to that. I think we probably could time travel. We could travel anywhere just with our own minds, all that kind of stuff. And I think we can get back to that. And I think some of us are. I'm starting to get the sense that's where we're headed by doing the work. So you're going to have to get physically perfect as you can get. And the Tzla machine can really help you out with that. That's at Tzla.Club. That's the plasma device that's just come out. Mentally, I highly recommend meditation. Just sit there and even just watch your mind every day. And after a while, you'll start to see your mind does a lot of insane things. And what you'll also recognize after a period of time is if you're watching your mind, then you're not your mind. So then you'll go to what are you? And if you just stay in the meditation, it'll actually become kind of clear what you are. You are consciousness. And then as you're doing all that, you can connect more, and you actually get all kinds of synchronicities and all kinds of intuitions. Your body's meant to have these intuitions. Most people just ignore them. But those are actually, your body's incredibly intelligent. And, we've just been led away from a lot of those things. But, a lot of people are starting to get back to them. And that's what a lot of the people who are at Anarchapulco this week, they're all doing these types of things and getting back to that and stepping away from this dying system. And it's going to get very interesting over the next few years to see how it all plays out.
Oh my gosh. Wow. Yeah, I love that we talked on a number of topics outside of just society and geopolitics, but spirituality, medicine, philosophically, as it relates to your relationship with the powers that be. Wow. Wanted to see if there. Oh yeah, I guess. What are perhaps some other things in light of time here, of course, that have just perhaps been the most profound awakening? Maybe you've already mentioned it, that you would care to share. I mean, other things that just rocked your world, like, wow, like this is insane. People need to know more about this. I mean, anything in that area if you haven't already covered it.
Nothing off the top of my head, but I've had like thousands of times like that over the last 10 years that it's like, whoa, and it's just like, wow, and that sort of a thing. I think these are all things, but I can't actually explain it to anyone. The only way you can ever believe me or know that something like that's possible is if you do it yourself. It's like, I don't want to say I'm better than you because I've, done all this work and, my consciousness levels might be higher than yours or whatever. That's not how I think. I think we're all one. None of us actually exist. We're just all part of part of consciousness, basically. But because I've done a lot of these things, it's like, here's the way I would describe it. It's like, I can see, and I'm trying to tell a blind man about like the different colors I see, right? Like, you just can't. There's nothing you could say to the blind man. Like, it's red. He'll be like, what's red? It's like an apple. He's like, I've never seen it. You can't do it, right? It's impossible to tell him what the color red is. The only way he would ever know what the color red is if he could see it. And so for that reason, I'm like, there's not even a point in me explaining a lot of these things because most people won't believe me. And you can't actually get it until you see it yourself. So what I would say is for everyone out there, make sure you're doing the work. And this is what I talk about all the time. And it can be as simple as physical, because if your physical is bad, then everything's going to be bad. If you don't have your health, you don't have anything. So make sure that's really good. And if it is, great. But most people, it's not. A lot of people are really out of shape. A lot of people are really full of a lot of toxins. You got to detox all that stuff out. Then work on your mind. And I've used hypnotherapy. I've had an incredible hypnotherapist a number of years ago. He was incredible, helped me out massively. You can also use plant medicines. We actually had an Anarchapulco the day after the false flag. They actually did an ayahuasca ceremony there. So they didn't let any of it stop them. It was pretty incredible. Now, I'm not saying just go, like, just because I said right now, go to the Amazon and do ayahuasca. No, if it feels right to you, if it feels like you've looked into it, your gut's telling you that's something you need to do, then yes, do it. Those things can help. Iboga is actually the best. It's the biggest shadow work you could do. It's 2 full days of you go into your subconscious and you just have to look at absolutely everything. And that's how you can get out a lot of the traumas. Yeah, and by doing stuff like that, you just, over time, you get more and more higher consciousness level where you can kind of see that this isn't really fully real. And you kind of sense and know what is real, and that is that we're all part of just consciousness. That's what we are. And then once you get to that point, you don't worry about anything, because it's not just I think. It's like I know, I feel it. Like I've had that. Like it's just like anything. Once you know something, you can't kind of go back. And this is kind of like that. Like now that I've known this, I've had this, whatever I've had over years and years, I can't go back to just believing all the Matrix stuff again, right? You just can't. But until you get there, you won't be able to understand. So all I'm saying is, if you're not there yet, start working on it. It's the most important thing to do. It's the only thing to do. There's nothing else to do. If you're like, well, what about my job? Doesn't matter. This is the most important thing. Now, of course, if you can keep your job and your income and still do the work, great. But if it comes down to this or anything else, choose this. Because once you choose this, everything around you changes. And in fact, abundance starts flowing to you. Once you get aligned, once you get connected, everything will flow to you. So a lot of people will say, oh, nothing ever works out for me. It's like, well, have you done the work? And obviously they haven't, because if they had, then everything would always work out for them. Because that's how it works. This is like it's not a linear, there is no actual time. Time doesn't exist. It's always now. Everything's always happened and always will happen. It's what your experience is, and your own mind, as you pointed out earlier, actually creates your own reality to an extent that most people can't even fathom.
Yeah, it's absolutely mind blowing what your mind is capable of. I've noticed a massive transformation in myself in the past couple months, just being aware of things and reading and having conversations. And so, yeah, it's I mean, just even doing the show has radically changed my viewpoint on things. Jeff, is there anything else that you'd like to share? And then also, how can people learn more about you as well as get in touch?
There's lots to talk about, but there's only so much time in the day as well. If you didn't know about me, my name's Jeff Berwick. You can go to $Vigilante.com. That's our financial newsletter. I'm on X, but massively shadow banned. I think it's Berwick_Jeff. Oh, I do videos a lot. We walk with my dogs, just talk about this stuff at Vigilante.tv. There's an Anarchapulco that'll be probably happening next year in Puerto Vallarta. Everyone wants to go back, even though we had a massive terror attack on the final day. That's the kind of people who come to Anarchapulco. That'll probably be happening next February in probably in Puerto Vallarta. We haven't fully decided yet. We're going to send out a survey, but it looks like everyone wants to go there again. We also do one in Europe called Librapulco. It's going to be coming up in August in Serbia, right beside the new anarcho-capitalist voluntarist country of Liberland. I think that's about it. I mentioned the plasma machine. That is like the most incredible rediscovery of our lifetimes. If you haven't heard anything about it, I highly recommend you start looking into it. It cures basically everything. It de-ages you. It's incredible. It's something that Big Pharma and the system does not want you to know about. And you can find that at Tzla.Club. I think that's about it.
Noted. Well, Jeff, it's been an honor. I think this is probably one of the more important episodes I feel like I've done, because we covered so many areas that I think are so profound. People focus so much on the money, which is obviously important to afford you a lifestyle and freedom and awareness, but the health stuff is super important. Looking forward to having you back
on. Talk about the health stuff. I'm actually injecting stem cells as we're doing this. Like, that's how serious I take my health stuff.
Oh, for sure. Yeah. Well, and you mentioned the meditation. I had been in a good habit of meditating for 20 minutes in the morning each day. I mean, to some that may not be much time, but I need to get back in. I was traveling for a bit, but I know that is profound. Jeff, thanks for making the time. Really enjoyed the conversation, and I'm sure we'll be in touch here soon.
It's been a pleasure, Christian. Thank you.